Welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live. Remember, 5 days a week we come at you, 11 a.m. Eastern, or off on Wednesdays and Thursdays. This is an important announcement. So every Sunday we have our start-sit stream at 11 a.m. Eastern, but there are going to be London games in weeks 4, 5, and 6, then a couple more down the road. When those London games are on, we never compete with the NFL because who has time? So what we're going to do is the start-sit shows for weeks 4, 5, and 6, when there are those London games. They will be on Saturday at this time, 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure to mark your calendars for that. Actually, the shows are already posted ahead of time on the RotoWire YouTube. So set a reminder so that you remember it's Saturday, not Sunday. All right. That said, when you go to the start-sit show, man, it was really hot last week. It was great. A lot of people showed up. Hopefully we gave more good advice than bad. Of course, we make some errors, can never have the crystal ball to that degree, but I'll give you the why, and you can make your best decision on game day. All right, the reactions. How do you start anywhere else other than the Miami Dolphins? Now, look, first thing is first. The team speed they have is insane. The coaching from Mike McDaniel, I give him a major pat on the back. Sauger, good morning. I give him a major pat on the back. Mike McDaniel, you never know. When a coach comes in the first year and they have a great system, great. You did a great thing and it worked. But we always wonder, the league is going to make adjustments. Does that coach have a counterpunch? And Mike McDaniel has answered the bell amazingly well. KJ, good morning. Yeah, but Mike McDaniel has answered it terrifically well, changing the type of motion they use, some half-field motion instead of full-field motion. Just, Brian, yes, they do have a track team. They just put the defenses in conflict to such a major degree. Now, 70 points, yes. I was 1 year old the last time a team scored 70 points in an NFL game, and that was in 1966. That tells you I'm old. So, all right, we take nothing away from the Dolphins. They totally ran it up. Great. I do want to point this out. I advise 2 betting against the spread games this week, and I always take team totals. That's where my sweet spot is. I took the Dolphins over 27.5 points. Obviously, they had that at halftime. And one of the reasons I said was Denver was decimated on defense. They were down both safeties. They were down some pass rushers. It was a ragged unit. They were making a cross-country trip. They were going to Miami, where the humidity and heat in September is always a massive issue. If you saw the game, Miami did what Miami does. They were on the shaded side of the stadium, while Denver was on the full sun side of the stadium. It is really funny to see that. But I mean, so talk about a team with the deck stacked against them. The Heat just had to wilt them. Now, we take nothing away from Miami. It's beautiful what they have going on. Davante. Some people may have started him. I mean, it's possible in leagues with multiple flex plays. He hadn't shown us a whole lot of opportunity in his. I'm going to pull up his previous game actually while I'm talking. So, and I should have done that earlier. A-Chain in his debut last week played 10% of the snaps, had 1 carry for 5 yards, had 1 catch for 4 yards. So based on that, I don't think anybody could have reasonably said, oh, yeah, we're definitely popping Devon A-Chain in our lineups. But, man, if you did, you got 50 fantasy points. Charlene, Calvin Austin, long touchdown. Amazing. Thought of you right away when I saw that. And I'm waiting for Uncle Ted to come in the house because he actually called on the stream Donald Parham to score 2 touchdowns. He had 2 targets. He had 4 yards. But guess what? 2 touchdowns. He called it. So Charlene and Uncle Ted called it. So back to Miami. Look, everybody went off. What do we take from it going forward, right? They played without Jalen Waddle. So this offense, I don't know right now what defenses are going to be able to do blueprint-wise to come up with something. Last year, the 49ers, the Chargers came up to deal with what they were doing, and they had success. McDaniel has already gone ahead of that. And it's like if a defense goes and overreacts to what he's doing, he could actually go back to what he did last year, and that would work too. I definitely remember, Charlene, you talk Calvin Austin all the time. I remember. Man, you guys are great to be hanging with me every day too. So I remember a lot of your stuff. But yeah, so that said, Mostert is on fire. And again, 31 years old. Last year by far was the most work he got. McDaniel scaled that work back in the second half of the season. I figured he realized that, you can't overplay him. He had 13 carries and 7 targets. Raheem Mostert right now, how do you trust him than anything? I mean, you definitely trust him as an automatic weekly start until he proves you otherwise. Because, again, he's part of that team speed equation. Obviously, Tyreek Hill sucks up all the targets. 23 completions for Tua, 9 of them to Tyreek. A-Chain, I don't know what his usage is going to be, but the fact that we saw it, we have to consider him right now. And again, I'm undershooting this because it's 1 week, right? I'm going to consider him an automatic flex. You have to play him in your lineup. I don't know what the usage is going to be going forward. I don't. The opponent was very bad. Denver, not just was all those things I said, they're horrible. So look, play A-Chain 2 right now as a flex. And if he continues to do it, get a big smile on your face, and you might get even more out of them. And again, Jalen Waddle should be back. Now, those who are look at the box score and say, oh, Robbie Chosen, which is Robbie Anderson, which is whatever Chosen Anderson, all these names he has every different year. He had a 68-yard touchdown. Understand the game was Mike White was at quarterback. The game was long over. So he was an afterthought in the offense. Don't put any stock into Robbie Chosen. That touchdown is saying he's back. We know he's been on multiple teams in the last couple of years. Nobody wants to keep him long-term, so don't bank on that for long. I want to make a quick point out to James Conner. My goodness. And this is not just confirmation of what I'm high on him. I love James Conner, so full disclosure. But every week he gets it done. He had the tough opening game against Washington, 70 yards, 5 catches. Oh, Uncle Ted, we are calling you out here. Donald Parham got you your 2 touchdowns. We said he had 2 catches, he had 4 yards, but Uncle Ted nailed it. He had 2 touchdowns. Frostbite, good morning. All right, but James Conner, back to him. 70 yards in the opener, 5 catches. It was okay. We were like, yeah, we can live with that. And then week 2, 100 yards and a touchdown against Dallas. 14 for 98, a couple catches for 18. Look, these aren't massive numbers, but he has room to build on this. They haven't needed him much in the receiving game. So this is kind of crazy. Since I was talking Miami, I'll take Lego Batman's question. Right now, Jeff Wilson, back burner. They can't. I don't think they can put the genie back in the bottle. I just don't think they can. Uncle Ted, you didn't whiff on Ferguson. He had 7 targets. He was fine. He didn't get the touchdown, but you get a good call on Ferguson. He's fine. But yeah, Jeff Wilson right now, and I had actually picked him up on one of the deeper leagues I'm in and put him on the bench, for the IR time. Right now with Devon A-Chain, I don't think the genie goes back in the bottle. I think he's part of the speed equation. I think Mike McDaniel is going to figure out how to not grind him between the tackles, but to keep him in space. So right now, I was excited about Jeff Wilson, but I got to say, yeah, afterthought in the offense. If somebody gets hurt, he's a factor. So, if you're stashing him, keep stashing him because, again, Mostert is really going against a big trend of many years of missed time. So remember that as well. So I would still stash Jeff Wilson. It's just that I just don't think right now, if he and A-Chain are healthy, I just think this offense is all about speed right now. And I think they're just laughing at the league right now because nobody could run with them. A-Chain, you comparing to the Chris Johnson. That was awesome. All right, Zack Moss. Look, we talked about Zack Moss. Hopefully you listened and you picked him up. Zack Moss, I was telling you, at the end of last season, he had 4 starts for the Colts. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry, and that offense was in a bad way, and he was good. He is back, and he is better than he was last year for the most part. 18 for 88 in the opener with a touchdown. He catches 4 passes. 30 carries against the Ravens. He goes for $122. He also has an insane touchdown catch. Zack Moss. It was like with a defender on him over the shoulder. It was a thing of beauty. 3 targets again. Look, Zack Moss, now that's 6 straight games with the Colts. He has been fantasy relevant. He is an RB2 top 18 running back. 6 games in a row is enough of a sample to say you roll with Zack Moss. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's coming back. If he comes back, that changes things. But right now, that's the way to do it. Let's see, Charlene, what you got there? You scored 207 points without using any Dolphins running backs. Oh, wow, that's a massive week. That's a great job on that. All right, Jaguars, what's going on, right? Confusion. Well, here's the thing. Yes, they're not playing well. 17 points at home against Houston, 9 points at home against the Chiefs. All right, we got that one. The Chiefs have been playing well. What I do want to point out is we talk about a game of inches, right? Well, the Jaguars, it is a game of inches right now. They have had, I'm going to just, a top of my head, 6 touchdowns. They just missed by inches each. Somebody just stepping out of bounds, a ball just missing, a ball slightly misplayed. It was just difficult. And they're close. Trevor Lawrence, it was a garbage time 279 and a touchdown. And we don't like, Ridley, another missed touchdown connection. He's had possibilities to have touchdowns in each game. The yardage, not good. 3 for 40. There's a little disconnect there right now after that first half of week 1. Albert, good morning. So it's been a problem. The two players who have been consistent, Evan Ingram, he's getting his 5-6 catches a game. Travis Etienne, he wasn't great against the Chiefs, but otherwise very solid. Again, another 4-catch game. So last year, 3 was his max. He's already gone over that twice. So we're very excited for Travis Etienne. I don't think the numbers are going to be eye-popping, but his floor looks really, really good. You get the catches and the carries in there. And realistically, the other running backs are an afterthought in terms of snap count. Tank Bigsby played 19% against the Chiefs, 12% yesterday. ETN been over 70% every game. We thought that would be lower, but that's working out well. I do, though, and obviously Christian Kirk got it going, 54 yards and a touchdown after 110 yards last week. So I do think the Jaguars, whatever is going on, Doug Peterson's a really good coach, and he will figure some things out. I am very optimistic that things get figured out there. But right now, it might take a bit. You keep starting them, but lower the expectations for Ridley right now until they get that refigured out. And for Trevor Lawrence, probably got to lower expectations a slight bit as well. But it really should just be something that gets on track. So, hey, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button if you're on RotoWire YouTube. Also, if you could give me a follow at Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter. I put up threads mostly toward the end of the week, get you ready for the big weeks of action. And again, a reminder, the start-sit show during the next 3 weeks, week 4, 5, and 6, there's London games on Sunday. So we're going to do that start-sit show. Yeah, man, you got to watch where the H goes on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So I'd love to see you here for that. The Browns. So I was talking up to Deshaun Watson in the offseason, and certainly you'd like to say, that, we all want to be right. Well, I made excuses for him. Week 1, bad weather. They played Cincinnati. Week 2, look, they're in Pittsburgh. That pass rush was insane. But I will say this, Deshaun Watson looked fantastic in an easier matchup. But hey, you have to have your success somewhere, right? 27-33, but it was precision, timing, and rhythm on his throws. Actually, he should have had more. Amari Cooper, referees, ridiculous. He catches a ball. He's probably 8 inches in bounds. He's going to get ready to take it to the house the rest of the way. Referee blows his whistle. Blows the play down. Now, there was a tackler in the back that he would have had to have beaten, but it looks like he already kind of had the edge on him, and I think he would have easily scored on that. But actually, Amari Cooper should have had about 130 and 2 touchdowns, like 140, and Watson should have had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that was a little bit. Now, Watson didn't run. I thought he would run a lot in this game. He didn't have to. The passing game was working so well. That was where I was a little bit wrong on that. I thought he would run because the passing, I thought he'd get better here, but not that better. He looked really, really good. And the offense has to be that way now. This has to be a complete change in paradigm with no Nick Chubb. And yes, Brian Pope, a good question. And that's the thing. We said this going into the game yesterday or on the weekend. I said they're going to use more keep the heavy receiver sets in, and they're going to throw to be a pass-centric offense. They're going to pass and set up the run from that. This offense is completely different. It's not like we're subbing in for Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is one of the few running backs that's just not replaceable. He is a huge difference maker. So we have that. So, so good to know that, but we're in good shape with this, and we think the offense is going to look better going forward. Amari Cooper's been the one, though. Amari Cooper's definitely getting it done here. Welcome in, Anthony Cervino. I'm just finishing up the Browns a little bit, then I'll welcome you in properly in a moment. Elijah Moore keeps getting targets. Not doing a ton with them, but if you're in a PPR league, 9 for 49, all right, you live with it. I think they're still working together some chemistry things there, but I do think that expect to go well there. Jerome Ford, hey, he got the 2 touchdowns. God bless him. But in terms of the rushing, 10 for 18. I told people to bench him over better options because I said you don't run at Tennessee. 10 for 18 was kind of what I expected. I didn't think he'd get a wide open touchdown pass where nobody was near him, and then he did fall in the end zone, so that worked. Anthony Cervino, welcome aboard. How was week 3?
Week 3 was very, very crazy, as we know. Dallas not playing well at all, but I've noticed ever since week 1, we see these powerhouse teams like the Chiefs and the Bills drop a game. Yesterday, it's Dallas and Baltimore dropping games. How about the Jaguars dropping? So it's like I think the NFL is getting to the point where all these teams are so close that it's going to be harder to figure out who is going to separate. To me right now, the team that has separated itself is the Miami Dolphins. That if you take with a healthy Tua, this team is going to make a very, very deep run. They can beat anybody.
Anthony, in December or sooner, they're going to get back Jalen Ramsey on defense. Oh, my God. And their defense is playing well. When they get Ramsey back, the flexibility they're going to have in that secondary is going to be insane. So they take their time getting him back. Get him back 100%. Don't rush him back. But you're right. Right now, and hey, we're week 3, but we're seeing it. You're right, Anthony. Now, remember, Anthony, I was with RotoWire. You can catch him at the FF Faceoff. You can follow him at the Real NFL Guru. Anthony's with us every Monday. We go over game day reactions and try to get this excitement out from the prior week as we continue to look ahead. Anthony, Jahmyr Gibbs. So he did get extra carries, so that was fine. 17 carries, gets 80 yards. But the usage of the passing game, they can't unlock him. Even last week when he had 9 targets, 7 for 39 yards, 5 yards a catch. Opener, 2 for 18, 1 catch for 2 yards here. What are we going to get from Jahmyr Gibbs? What level of production are we expecting from him?
I mean, at this point, it's almost like they got rid of DeAndre Swift to draft a much more expensive DeAndre Swift and use him like DeAndre Swift. Only DeAndre Swift was actually more productive in the passing game.
Oh, my God, that was so funny. I'm sorry. I kind of lost my stuff there. That was you're right. You're right.
It's a head scratcher.
Wow. So here's the thing. We know Ben Johnson's been a good offensive coordinator. He really figures out a lot of things. I'm hopeful he figures out how to actually use Gibbs as a receiver, because to me, that's the missing point. He's not Gibbs. I like the Swift Gibbs analogy. I was very perfect on that. But Gibbs has to be used differently. And if they don't use him differently than Swift, they're not going to unlock him.
Yeah.
What's the probability they figure out how to unlock him this year?
They gave him the usage of targets last week, but I don't know if is there a do they know how to use Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, do they know how to use, like, they want, obviously, with Swift and drafting Gibbs so high, they want this back, but I don't know if they quite know how to unlock it in their offense, because what works is, okay, Gibbs had those 17 carries, but they want that running back who's going to carry the football. I think it's just a little bit more explosive. Like if David Montgomery was in, and last year we saw with Jamal Williams, like I think they want that versatile running back, but I don't know if they know how to quite unlock him.
And
that's I can't put my finger on it, like, because it was Swift, and now it's early on. It looks like Gibbs is getting that same treatment, but I don't know if it's a treatment thing, as if it's like look at how Atlanta uses London and Pitts, where they're not going to be big-time fantasy producers, even though they were high draft capital, because of the system they're in. But in the NFL, outside of fantasy, you just need them to make a play here and there. Maybe that's what Gibbs is, unfortunately. I don't know.
100%. I like Lego Batman's comment that Detroit needs to watch some tape on how Alvin Kamara was used. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, good call there. But all right, so for Jahmyr Gibbs right now, honestly, you drafted him. You got to ride with him. You're hoping he can get you RB2 numbers each week. PPR helps a little bit. I mean, some weeks he had the 7 catches 2 weeks ago, but then a 1 and a 2. So you're just hoping to get RB2 out of him, and you're hoping they figure something out. The Packers are next. So Jordan Love, look, I'm going to really tip my hat. He's been without Christian Watson, obviously his most explosive receiver. And 2 weeks without Aaron Jones, who really flips the script on defenses a lot. And yet he's multiple touchdowns in every game. One of them was rushing yesterday, so he can get a little done with his legs. The yardage has been okay, and it was a lot of scramble mode yesterday when they fell behind the Saints. But for fantasy, we love it. But that said, what do you think Love will be like when he gets his full complement of weapons on the field?
I still have my questions about Jordan Love. Like, he can certainly play quarterback in the NFL, but I said it going into this week. Okay, like, what's the probability that Jordan Love's going to throw another game with 3 touchdown passes as he did the first 2 games? And we saw him come back down to earth against a really tough Saints defense. But yeah, he's going to get Aaron Jones back. He's going to get Christian Watson back, and I think we see a little bit improvement out of Jordan Love. But I just don't know if he's he's not an elite quarterback in my eyes. Like, he's not going to be another Aaron Rodgers. Like, they're not going to strike gold with Favre, Rodgers, and Love. Like, Love's going to be a serviceable starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers if they want him to be for years to come. But he's not, he's never going to be that elite guy, in my opinion.
And we have to remember that Matt LaFleur doesn't want his quarterback throwing a lot. Aaron Rodgers is only throwing about 525 passes a season. That's a low number. When you're Mahomes of the world of throwing 700 plus or right in near 700 range, it's a big drop. That offense is all about balance, scheming people open, and there are receivers schemed open in that offense. And when they do get Watson, again, that's going to just help increase other players' ability to get schemed open because the speed has to be accounted for. So these are things we have to think about. But Jordan Love for fantasy, I still think in a 2-quarterback league, you're very happy with him, and you'll continue to be. I don't know. The Raiders, the only thing I'll say about the Raiders is Davante Adams. In week 1, we bet the under on him because Patrick Surtain and that cashed. But since then, we knew Davante Adams is going to get the targets. He only had 8 last week, but he goes up to 19 targets in this one. And so now he's at a 66-yard game, an 84, and 172. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo is no idiot. Throw the ball to Davante Adams. Now, actually, he ended up still getting production from Jacoby Myers late because they were in scramble mode. But for the most part, this is going to be Davante Adams all day long. Josh Jacobs, we said, coming off a career year, trained for a career year last year, in my opinion. Don't know what he did during camp this year when he was unhappy with his situation, didn't report till late. Through 3 weeks, nothing special, nothing close to the player we saw last year. Thoughts on Jacobs and Adams?
Number one, like Davante Adams, it's like he is, I put him in the class of like Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek Hill is exceptionally quarterback proof. No matter who has thrown the ball to Tyreek Hill, even when, it was Alex Smith, I think it was Matt Moore Tyreek got 140 yards. Like the stat is like Tyreek had at least 5 games with 5 different quarterbacks to throw 140 yards to him. So Davante Adams, it seems like no matter who the quarterback is quarterback proof. And there's not a lot of receivers who you can say that about, but I would put Tyreek and Adams in that quarterback proof tier. Which in fantasy football, I feel like he was discounted, including myself. I worried about Davante Adams with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it seems like he blew up that take in the offseason, blew up in my face. I wish I had, just like last year with Carr, I wish I had more Davante Adams. Josh Jacobs, Josh Jacobs and even Najee Harris, these are 2 running backs. I said, this is a week. If they don't get back on track, then I think we start to bail, and you don't cut them, but you bail until we start seeing an uptick in production. And, Najee 3.4 yards per carry, Josh Jacobs 3.6. That is not good right now. And even Jaylen Warren, everybody wants to crown him. But I think the issue with the Pittsburgh Steelers is not Najee Harris, because Jaylen Warren's not effectively running the ball either. It's Kenny Pickett. These enemy defenses are going to stack the line and make Kenny Pickett beat you with his arm. and
You
they're
know,
not going to let Pittsburgh establish a run.
with Najee Harris, his yards per carry got dinged because late in the game they were trying to grind clock.
Yeah.
And so it was stack box, and his line isn't great. We were hopeful. They're not great. His yards per carry were just fine before grind out mode. And the 2 weeks before, he had a 6 for 31. And last week, his yards per carry. He looks on a normal situation other than grind out the clock mode. He has looked, in my mind, as good, if not better, than he did last year. They're just, as soon as it hits second and long, they get him out and they bring in Warren. And Warren is benefited from light boxes on a few different plays. That's very clear. But like you said, Anthony, he does not, other than those plays where there's nobody near him because it's second and long, third long, he's replacement level. He's not very good. He's okay, but he's nothing special. But the way the Steelers are getting, like you said, Kenny Pickett, putting him in bad situations too, Warren's benefiting, and that may continue. But I don't know what the coaches are looking at. And Matt Canada is horrible. Yeah. But Najee Harris needs to be ridden. He needs to be given work because he's one of those backs. Give him time. Let him operate. But they're not doing that. So, but you're right. For fantasy, what do? You sit right now. Well, yeah, all right, 65 yards. Great. I got 6 fantasy points. Useless. So right now, like Anthony said, you kind of downgrade them. If you have nothing better, you got to start them. But, man, it's not looking good right now. Anthony, real quick on the Panthers. So I've gotten lucky 3 weeks in a row giving out low-priced DFS quarterbacks. 3 weeks ago, I gave out Baker Mayfield, 302 touchdowns. Last week, C.J. Stroud, 384 and 2 touchdowns. This week, I gave out Andy Dalton, 361 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. I'm on a lucky roll here. So don't follow me next week because I don't think we're doing 4 weeks in a row. Now, I picked the wrong player to stack him with, but it wasn't bad. I said stack him with DJ Chark, and you'll take 4 for 86 and a touchdown, especially with DJ Chark's DFS salary. But Adam Thielen somehow goes off for $145. I don't want to spend much time on this game, but it was Seattle. Tariq Woolen was out. They get no pass rush. If Dalton starts again, we're not going to see lightning twice, are we?
It depends on the matchup, but Andy Dalton last year, he was able to support a 1,000-yard season for Chris Olave, and the Saints passing attack was good enough. Andy Dalton gets a lot of slack in this league, from the media, but Andy Dalton's a very, very good quarterback. I just don't know if he's an every week starter at this point. But like from fantasy football, or if you're an NFL team like this, he was a perfect guy to have Bryce Young kind of be the mentor. Or be Bryce Young's mentor, because I think sitting Bryce Young for a couple of weeks, letting him learn behind Andy Dalton, like a tenured veteran, he won a lot of games in Cincinnati. He can still, as it shows, sling the football. So from fantasy, I think you can start Andy Dalton depending on the matchup.
Absolutely. And you're right about Andy Dalton. And when we talk about Andy Dalton, he'll stare down the pass rush. He won't just like bail out under pressure. And that's something a lot of quarterbacks don't do. And all right, I'm looking for news on Mike Williams. We were talking. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports the Chargers fear Mike Williams suffered a significant potentially season-ending knee injury. Well, there's that. Oh man. Well, yeah, I was invested in Mike Williams. So Mike Williams, a lot of people said injury prone. He missed 4 games last year. 6 years ago as a rookie, he missed 6 games. And the 3 or 4 years in between, it was like 15 and 16 games played. So it was like, no, he had been on the field almost every game. But now we get this. So, wow, that's horrific news. Now we don't, again, it's not 100% confirmed. That's what Ian Rappaport's going with. But usually when there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah. All right, what are we doing with this, with the Chargers? How the Chargers going to hold up?
Well, there's a reason why they drafted Quentin Johnson. I know Quentin Johnson hasn't really been able to overtake Joshua Palmer, which is concerning, but they drafted a first-round wide receiver because of Keenan Allen's age. But Keenan Allen looks like he's like 25 again. Mike Williams, he does have that injury-prone label. So I think they were anticipating something bad because it's the Chargers. They always get hit with an injury bug at the wide receiver position. It always seems to be somebody. And I think they were planning possibly for the worst / the future. And we have to see Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson step up. When it comes to Quentin Johnson, he only played 22, 10, and 16 snaps the first 3 games of the year. where Joshua Palmer 51, 36, 39. Quentin Johnson's got to learn fast. He's going to be thrown into now 3 wide sets. He's going to be the starter in 3 wide sets.
So this is going to be a coaching point. So I think Mike Williams often would run a lot of non-complicated routes. Obviously sometimes he runs, but a lot of times he would run just the downfield routes, the slants. I think Quentin Johnson, those are routes that he can run. He has the athleticism to run them. Now it's just a matter of whether the coaching staff, Kellen Moore, can get him up to speed on that. But we had, let's see, somebody in the chat mentioned, I can't see where, but yeah, Lego Batman. So, but Josh Palmer is going to be a thing. This is going to be a passing offense. He is going to have a strong weekly floor. I would recommend don't spend big waivers because a lot of people drop Quentin Johnson right away. If he's on waivers, pick him up. Don't go more than 10% because we don't know what's going to happen. If they had him on the bench now, there could be for a reason. But look, stepping into Mike Williams' role, he's not Mike Williams, but the speed is real. And he should have opportunity because this Chargers defense is horrible and they're going to have to throw the ball. Yeah. So, Anthony, how much would you invest on Quentin Johnson if he was on waivers in Fab?
Quentin Johnson, I would nothing more than 10, as you're saying. Even with, I almost rather go with Joshua Palmer.
Yes,
if he's out there and not rostered. Like if I have Palmer on a few deeper benches, but in most of your leagues he's not rostered. I think the reason we are seeing there was the offseason report going into after the preseason, we saw it. Hey, the Chargers are going with Josh Palmer over Quentin Johnson. And that was like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of Quentin Johnson. I didn't draft him a lot. And that made me feel a lot better saying that the Chargers might not believe in him right now.
So what percent are we spending on Joshua? I'm sorry, not Joshua. Palmer. Joshua Palmer. What percentage are we spending on
Palmer? I might go up to 15.
I think so. Because he's going to get targets in this, and he saw last year, he was productive last year. So Palmer is going to get targets. So I do agree, Anthony. I think 15% is a reasonable bid on him. And if for some reason you've been really snake bit at receiver and you're really short, you might even have to go 20 if you're desperate. Yeah. But if you just need him for depth, 15 is right. But if you had Mike Williams and maybe you had another receiver who's gone down already, you could be a little more aggressive. But Anthony's dead right on that one. Again, now Charlene says she has Keenan Allen. Oh, and Jefferson. Yeah, Jefferson was wobbling toward the end of the game. Hopefully it was nothing significant. Real quick on Keenan Allen, though. I mean, my gosh, 111 and 2 touchdowns last week, 149 and a touchdown this week, 20 targets. That's Puka Nacua level, Anthony. Keenan Allen, if he stays healthy in this offense, are we looking at this rejuvenation where we can see a 1,300-yard season?
I think we could see a monster year out of Keenan Allen. A lot of people view it. I don't understand why. Like the narrative around fantasy Twitter sometimes, Keenan Allen doesn't have a high ceiling. He just has a high floor. Like this is a guy who's finished as I believe a top 12 wide receiver fantasy points per game for the past X amount, like a lot of years. I would say over 5 years straight. I don't have it in front of me. But like for him to be going in the 3rd round in the FFPC, he was an auto draft in the 3rd round for me. No matter how my first 2 picks went, if Keenan Allen was there in the 3rd, because I valued him as a 2nd round pick. I value Keenan Allen over Chris Olave because of the offense, the quarterback. So it's like, Chris Olave is a 2nd round pick. So like Keenan Allen in the 3rd, if you got him in the 3rd, that was an auto pick for me.
Now, before we get to a couple things, remember, if you want a free RotoWire trial, no credit card needed, just go to rotowire.com/Jim. Brooks, I see you got a lot of Chargers talk up there. Thank you for being here. And Aaron Bean, glad you're here. I saw a couple people come in. Welcome, everyone. And also remember the Sunday start sit stream that we do every week during the London weeks. The next week, next 3 weeks, there's games on Sunday morning. So we're going to do that start sit stream on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. So again, you can go to RotoWire YouTube and bookmark that. It's already set up for you there. And Randy, I see you got Keenan Allen as well. So it looks good there. All right. Anthony, we probably should preview the Monday night games, but the one thing I want to say, it's funny when you said Davante Adams, and I agreed with quarterback proof, and then 2 words came to my mind. Zach Wilson. I wonder if Davante Adams is Zach Wilson proof.
I think he would ask for a trade at that point.
Oh man, I guess so. This was third hand. Okay, I was listening, I believe, the Athletics podcast this morning, and they said Garrett Wilson. No, it was the Ringers podcast, and they said they thought they saw Garrett Wilson trying to read lips, yelling at the coach, "He can't throw." All right, before we get to tonight's games, are the Jets really going to ride this out with Zach Wilson the rest of the way?
I mean, I saw rumors yesterday that I think it was Matt Ryan and possibly Carson Wentz.
Yes, reached out to them.
Yeah. If I'm the Jets, I am bringing in, but I probably Matt Ryan over Carson Wentz, but I'm bringing somebody in because you have a lot of young talent, and the last thing you want to do is have this young talent. We already see them delete their Twitter, and Breece Hall tweeting out after that Dallas game, 4 footballs to represent. I only had 4 touches. You don't want to lose this the young guys in your locker room because all of a sudden Garrett Wilson could be demanding a trade. And he might not want to re-sign there. And yeah, I feel like keeping a locker room together, like Aaron Rodgers really made that locker room come together, and we're seeing Zach Wilson kind of blow this thing up.
All right, everybody, we have 2 Monday night games. Let's talk about these and preview these. We have the Rams at the Bengals. Man, the Bengals, we don't really know what Joe Burrow's deal is. He's practiced in a limited fashion. It looks like they're going to try to give him a go, but we don't know. It could be a game time inactive, so there is some sense of nervousness about that. Anthony, first of all, what do you think about Burrow's chances of playing tonight?
They brought in A.J. McCarron, and yes, it's a quarterback, but like anytime you see a team bring somebody off the street or bring somebody up off the practice squad, and there's a player in Joe Burrow's situation, it's usually not good. But it could also be with the new NFL rule where you can have that number 3 emergency quarterback. Yes. It could be that where, okay, we see Joe Burrow, let's say, he can't go, and then you put Browning. So like there's now that third quarterback, emergency quarterback that's not going to take up a roster spot. So I do think, in my heart of hearts, considering where the Bengals are, this isn't your 10 years ago Bengals. This is a Super Bowl contending Bengals. They can't fall to 0-3. I think we see Burrow out there at least giving it a shot.
So what are we looking for from the Bengals offense against the Rams defense? Now, the Rams, look, they got torched by the 49ers. They gave up 30 points, but Kyle Shanahan has had their number for years. And obviously the talent disparity from the 49ers offense to the Rams defense was incredibly massive. But in week 1, the Rams defense held Seattle to 13. Now we have the Bengals here. Again, likely very limited quarterback, but you still have Chase, you still have Higgins, and I think that talent disadvantage is incredibly massive here as well. What are you expecting from the Bengals on offense?
With or without Joe Burrow, like you said, there should be enough here to overcome this Rams defense. And the Rams are playing much better than expected through the first 2 weeks. But look, they played the 49ers, they played Seattle, and they won in Seattle, which is a tough place to play. 49ers defense is still really, really good, but I do think they are trying to still gel without D'Amico Ryans, and that was a big loss. So you could get away with some more against the 49ers. So like this Bengals defense, they have the defensive coordinator Anarumo, who's been there. It's a little bit more sturdy right now. I think we're going to see the Bengals win this game with their defense, and it's going to be a lower scoring game.
So who is the player for the Bengals offensively that does well in this game, if any?
This should be a Ja'Marr Chase game. He's been getting the targets, whether it's Browning or McCarron or Dalton or Burrow. We're going to see Ja'Marr Chase rise up in this must-win spot. This is a must-win game. You can't fall to 0-3 and still think you're going to climb out of the hole, especially in a tough AFC North to win a Super Bowl, and you should be leaning on your best player on offense, not named Joe Burrow, and that's Ja'Marr Chase.
So, and I think we could see Joe Mixon catch a lot of passes. They don't like him on passing downs, but I think on regular base downs, there could just be a lot of screens to keep any ideas, because the Rams may come in saying, we want to blitz because we want to test Burrow and make him get it out super fast, because they might sell out. They know they're talent deficient other than Aaron Donald. So there may be a game plan. So dump offs to the running back could be big. I think Joe Mixon could be very involved in that capacity. And I think also, though, the pressure, my guess, and that's my guess, I could be wrong, but if they do that, like you said, they're going to try to get Chase off. But Higgins is that ball winner on, the physical routes. So I think they're not going to waste their time on the ancillary players here. They're not expecting Irv Smith to play. I don't think Tyler Boyd sees a lot of action here. I think it's all about the outside receivers. I don't know what their ceilings are, but like point per reception, I think they could pile up a lot of catches. But I do think Mixon is going to be really needed heavily in this game. I don't think they could trust their other running backs. Now, Anthony, other side of the ball, Puka's been going crazy here. Tutu Atwell's been playing great, and Kyron Williams has been fantasy productive, not near 4 yards per carry or anything like that, but he gets a lot of dump offs. What are you expecting from the Rams on offense?
I do think there's going to come a time where the bubble's going to burst. Like I said about Jordan Love, do we really expect him to throw 3 touchdown passes in 3 straight games in his first 3 starts? And, this Rams team, you look at who's popping: Puka Nacua, day 3 wide receiver; Tutu Atwell, who looked like a bust last year; Kyron Williams. Did Les Snead really just hit and he just built his future in the past 2 drafts and this is the way it's going to go? I don't think so. I think the Rams come back down to earth a little bit tonight. And maybe we see Puka Nacua keep it going. Maybe Kyron Williams takes a step back, because it doesn't seem like, if he doesn't get those touchdowns, you said his efficiency isn't great. So I think this is going to be a game where the Bengals show up on defense and take the Rams and kind of put them back to earth.
You mentioned Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, earlier, and I have to think he wants to make Stafford uncomfortable. Now, they're not, other than Henderson, Sam Hubbard's not bringing it. Joseph Asai is not bringing it to the level we saw at times last year, and they're going to have to blitz. I think they're going to, and I know the Rams like to get it out quick. So that's going to be one of those tilt points on the game here. And Matthew Stafford, when he's hot, good luck. And that guy gets on a heater until he goes off that heater. Best of luck stopping him. But that said, Anarumo is very good at game planning. And I do think he's going to have some ideas. But Anthony, some of my audience heard this already, but Tuesday I had this revelation. The revelation was, after Nacua has these big games, it's like, oh my God, Cooper Kupp, he did play a little before McVay, but he didn't become like a true, like, huge star until McVay.
Yeah.
Is it the role? Is it the role that McVay has that gets that guy wide ass open into space quickly, and then having a decent quarterback or better quarterback with Matt Stafford? Is that what it's just about with Nacua?
I had a similar narrative where it was the quarterback to unlock, Matthew Stafford unlocked Cooper Kupp, but I'm with you here. Is it the role? Is it the role, or is it the fact that Puka Nacua is getting 20 targets and 15 targets?
Because he's not doing a ton with them. His yards after the catch is nothing special, but you're right. 35 targets in 2 games, right?
Remember when Michael Thomas was the overall wide receiver one, and everybody thought he was this great wide receiver? I said he's a product of Sean Payton and Drew Brees and a hell of a lot of targets.
Mr. Slant.
And now you don't look at Michael Thomas is doing right now when he's not getting 15 targets a game.
Good call.
What is he?
Good call. He's a good player.
Yeah.
Good player.
And even Cooper Kupp was a very good player with Jared Goff.
Yes.
Good to very good. So let's, pump the brakes. Like we have they're not in they're like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. They're not in that Davante Adams conversation. Not even close.
No, but if he's getting 20 targets a game, the fantasy points are going to be close enough. And I don't know what the sustainable level is here. There is no track record of somebody getting 17 and a half targets a game. There's no track record for that.
No.
Even when Adams was playing with Aaron Rodgers, all right, you might get a 15 in there once in a while, but yeah, I mean, when you look at the end of the season and when a Davante Adams or a Justin Jefferson has 180 targets, well, do the math. 17 games, that's a little more than 10 a game.
Yeah.
That's all it is. These are the super elite receivers in the game. So that all said, who is going to produce for the Rams tonight for fantasy?
I do think it's going to be Puka Nacua, just because they're going to keep funneling the targets to him. The only way you stop that as a smart defensive coordinator to take that out.
Do you think Lou Anarumo is that guy?
I think he should be. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been sensational and has really helped this team get to that next level since he's been there. So I think he knows how to, especially they played in the Super Bowl against each other. He knows how to take this slot receiver out.
So Sauger has a question for us. Matthew Stafford has an over and under at 253.5 yards here. Personally, I think that Lou Anarumo figures out a way to get pressure. The Rams have a decent line. They're healthy as opposed to last year, but they're not an excellent line. Yeah. And they can be compromised. And Anarumo will come up with exotic blitz looks, and he will. And Matthew Stafford is an older veteran quarterback, but he's not the Tom Brady type that diagnoses everything. Yeah. He's not at that level. Anarumo, I think, can confuse them. And I think they can keep him under 253 yards. But I want to hear what you say on it, Anthony.
I would be in on the under here, and the game total under. Anytime that these two teams played, Cincinnati and Rams, in the past 5 games dating back to 2007, the over is 0-5. So these matchups historically go under, and even the 2 most recent ones in the Super Bowl and then back in 2019. So historically, these matchups go under, and even Cincinnati in their past 10, the under is 6-4, and the Rams in their past 10, the under is 6-4. So usually when you see an under, there's going to be a little bit lesser passing, slower pace game. So I would also take the under on the Stafford passing yards.
I like that. I like both the under on Stafford and the under on the game. Who wins this game? Bengals -1.5. That line may be 2, but who do you like in the game? Who win this game?
I'll take Cincinnati money line. I'll take them to cover. I think the must-win spot. This is the team that has been to a Super Bowl recently against the Rams, but this is also the team that didn't mortgage their future, and the Rams are supposed to be in a rebuild. They're not supposed to be playing this competitive football 2 weeks in. So I think this is the type of game where Cincinnati rises up and the Rams kind of go back down to earth a little bit.
So the 3-team same game parlay of the Bengals money line under 43.5 and Stafford under 253 does not look like a terrible same game parlay, Anthony. Any last thoughts on that?
No, and you can sign up, and get the parlay boost on FanDuel with the FanDuel promo code at RotoWire. So search out on Google FanDuel promo code at RotoWire and use our code to sign up.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely take advantage of these codes, and it helps us too. So we appreciate you guys. All right, let's do one more game here. You got a little time for one more, Anthony?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Eagles at the Buccaneers. Eagles are 5.5-point favorites here. The line may have shifted a bit. I typed this on before the Sunday games. Work all day Sunday, like all these us football crazies. Anyway, Eagles 5.5-point favorites. Now, here's the first thing I want to start with. The Eagles, since last year, they're vulnerable in the middle of the field. The attacking the outside with Bradbury and Slay, that's usually not good business. The Eagles are worse off in the middle than they were last year. Both of their starting safeties from last year gone. Now, Reed Blankenship did start some games, but he was a fill-in for Marcus. That's he's starting. They have another guy who didn't play for them last year. Kobe Dean was their inside linebacker. Rookie last year didn't play. He's on the IR. He's out. And then they're just kind of integrating players in their front 7 that are new to the defense. So this middle of the field is where you attack them. But the Buccaneers' strength is Evans and Godwin. Godwin has not been a primary slot this year. He's been a primary outside receiver. They're moving Devin Tompkins and there's Trey Palmer into Palmer, and they're moving them into the slot a little bit more. If that's the recipe here, that could be very problematic for the Bucs because the Bucs are playing their strengths to the Eagles' strengths. That could be problematic, and that's my concern, Anthony. So break down the Buccaneers side of the ball here.
The key to the Buccaneers' early success 2-0 is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield against the pressure. I tweeted out going into the weekend. He's one of the more effective quarterbacks under pressure. He's only taken 1 sack, which is like when you think about Baker Mayfield, like this guy is usually breaking down. There's a reason why he's been bouncing around, but it seems like ever since Baker had that short stint with the Rams, maybe Sean McVay sprinkle a little bit of magic quarterback dust on him, because this looks like a different Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. So I think the key is, can Philly get pressure on Baker Mayfield and rattle him? Or is Baker Mayfield going to overcome the pressure, as he's done the first 2 games of the year, and pick this banged up Eagles defense apart with those talented wide receivers? So it's all on Baker Mayfield, and can he keep playing as well as he is under pressure?
I would imagine, and you never know what a team's going to do. I would imagine the Eagles would match up their corners, because Bradbury's the bigger corner, Slay's a smaller one, and you think that because if they're putting Slay on Mike Evans, that's a mismatch, and actually they're putting Bradbury on Godwin, those would be mismatches for the receivers. But if they put the big corner Bradbury on Evans and the smaller Slay on Godwin, that would be in the best interest. But I don't know that that's what they're going to do. And I do think they're going to have to scheme up some pressure here. They're not the 70-sack team of last year just now, but they need to get that pressure tonight. But remember, I want to point this out too. The Buccaneers may have scored 27 points against the Bears, but 7 of those were like a 3-yard interception return for a touchdown. So they really only scored 20 against the bad Bears defense, and they scored 20 in a win against what I consider still a very bad Minnesota defense that has a great coach. So they've scored basically 20 offensive points in each game. Now, the Eagles might have a lot of deficiencies on defense, but they are way better than the Bears and the Vikings. And just it's very basic, crude logic. But again, the Eagles, little extra time to prepare. They played last Thursday. It was a mini bye. They had time to put some things together, specify a game plan. I think that added time and added rest is going to help them here. Sawgrass about Baker Mayfield, 229.5 passing yards is over under. What are you looking at here?
For Baker, I do like the over here. As talented as this Eagles defense is, like last week, I undersold how good like this Minnesota Vikings defense is, and it was Kirk Cousins in prime time. He never shows up. Well, he lights him up. And I think as long as this Philly defense is banged up, and we know the guys who are around, including Davante Maddox, who was a staple in that secondary, I think Baker Mayfield will be able to hit that over.
And for me, it's a stay away. And I didn't give you that option, Anthony, which you could have taken, but I didn't make that an option. But the thing is, it's all dependent upon, will the Bucs, Dave Canales, will he come in with a game plan to use the middle of the field? Because if he doesn't hammer the middle of the field and they're just having Baker challenge the 2 corners over and over, to me, that's a problem. And there is going to be some pressure. So I don't know what I can't foresee that game plan. If Godwin moves to the slot, Godwin could go for 130 yards in this game and Baker would sail over. I don't know, based on what we've seen, that they're going to do that. And it should be game plan specific, but it's often not. Other side of the ball, the Eagles, they're putting points up. 34 against Minnesota, 25 against New England, but the offense just does not look right. Now, last week, they went to running DeAndre Swift because Minnesota was dropping a bunch of people back, and eventually they could just use their offensive line and just shred them up front, and then Swift made them pay for it. But they haven't gotten A.J. Brown going yet. Devontae Smith was injured. He's off the injury report. He's been doing fine. We expect Todd Bowles is going to bring a lot of heat because that's what he does. He has Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, who are 2 good corners on the outside, but I don't know that those corners are good enough to match up with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. What are your expectations for the Eagles offense here?
No, I expect, because we saw it last week after A.J. Brown had that mini meltdown, they tried getting him the football in the end zone to get him involved. I expect A.J. Brown to have a big game tonight because Jalen Hurts is a good leader. He knows he wants to try to get everybody involved, and he knows A.J. Brown's a little bit of a diva. So what do? You get him involved early. So this could be one of those A.J. Brown games. When you look, scaling back to Baker Mayfield, Philly against the quarterbacks from fantasy are dead last. So like that is the easiest matchup Baker Mayfield will face this season. After the first, Philly, you can get lit up. Same thing on the other side. Tampa's playing well, but they're 22nd. So this is a pretty easy matchup. I normally like the under in this game, but I kind of think this game is going to go over. In fantasy, Or just breaking down a game in general. The other guy I like is Dallas Goedert. He also hasn't gotten going yet.
He had a bunch of targets, did nothing with. He caught them. So PPR, I think he got you like 6 for 20 or something like that. That was just a really weird Dallas Goedert sound. But I totally agree with you on the A.J. Brown thing. Like you said, the squeaky wheel, and that is going to happen. But again, with the blitz that Todd Bowles is going to bring, it's going to leave the lack of double coverage on the backside, and neither of those corners are A.J. Brown level good, and Brown's going to probably win at 2 big plays today. And so I do think I would go over on the A.J. Brown yardage prop, and I also would go anytime touchdown on A.J. Brown because I think that's a pretty good one to go. Now, Jalen Hurts has a 237.5 passing yards prop here. What do you think on that?
So the Jalen Hurts passing yards prop, let me pull up
237.5. Well, Anthony's looking it up. So what I'm going to say while Anthony's thinking this one through, if A.J. Brown's going to go for $110 to $130 in this game, then it makes it very easy for Jalen Hurts to get there because he doesn't need a whole lot more. So if it's a big Brown game, I would probably prefer just to go with A.J. Brown. That would be my choice. Anthony, any thoughts on the Jalen Hurts prop?
Yeah, Hurts has played Tampa Bay in each of the past 2 seasons. Back in 2021, before he had that big leap, goes from 115, 1-1. And then last year, I guess it was January 16th, 258, 1-2. I think with the state of this Tampa Bay defense, obviously not being regressing since they won that Super Bowl and had Tom Brady. This is a different defense, still okay, still okay to good, but it's not elite anymore. I think this could be a game. If we're taking the A.J. Brown over, then I'm going to take the Jalen Hurts over.
Now, the rushing prop on Hurts is 44.5 yards. We know Bowles is going to blitz a lot. So that means one of 2 things. Either they're going to hem him in on the blitz and make him kind of stay in the pocket, or he's going to see the blitz and break contain in 1 or 2 big runs, and he gets over on that. What are your thoughts on Hurts with the rushing prop of 44.5?
Hurts hasn't gotten going on the ground yet this year. Only 9 for 37 and 12 for 35. So I think I'm going to stay away from that. That's a stay away from me.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's pick the game and get out of here. Eagles -5.5 at the Bucs. Who do you like?
I like Tampa Bay to cover.
Eagles to win, Bucs to cover, right?
Yes.
Yep. If you're going to do a teaser bet, you could do one on the team total and on the bet. So you could tease the Eagles a 6-point teaser. You could tease them down to plus a 0.5 point. And then, Anthony, if we're doing the teaser, would we just bump that up to 52 and go under, or would we bump it down to 40 and go over?
I would bump it down to 40 and go over on a teaser.
Yeah, 100%. So if you're going to bet this one, that again, you do the 2-team teaser, Eagles bumps it to point plus a 0.5 point, and then it'll get the over and under to 40. You go over on that, and that's the way to go. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
You can find me at RotoWire. I'm an SEO editor, and I also do a lot of my video and audio content at fffaceoff.com, and you can follow me on social media at The Real NFL Guru.
And you can find me at Jim Coventry NFL. And everybody, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Anthony is here every Monday. Tomorrow we'll be back with Brandon Kravitz. Everybody, good luck in the rest of the week, and we will see you soon.